students. In today's class, we are going to discuss about the last aspect of the chapter. We have actually studied about everything in this chapter about who the Harappans were, how were they, um, what were the theories about their origin, who discovered about them, what type of sources make us aware of them, what was their town planning, what were the features of the houses that were there, what type of sculpture they have found, what kind of transportation they use, what kind of trade they did, all of it. So we have got a very fair and very good glimpse about the society by now. Now, today we are going to discuss what were the reasons for the decline of this civilization. That means as to how did this civilization end. And this happens to be very, very important for your examination. So pay very careful attention to today's class. Now, when we are discussing reasons for decline, the Harappan civilization actually ended around 1800 BC. And there is no conclusive reason that we can say, that there is no one reason for sure that we can say that the Harappan civilization has declined because of this reason. There are scholars, there are historians who are analyzing and who are continuously researching, and they have come up with some probable reasons which we are going to discuss in this video. So the first reason they think may have been floods. In fact, a movie had also come on this named Mohenjo-daro that probably explores the option of flood being the reason for decline. Now, what these scholars feel, they feel that the floods in Mohenjo-daro led to the abandonment, that means leaving of this civilization. And why do they say that the people had left their areas because of flood? Because the sites which have been discovered, the houses, the streets in Mohenjo-daro, they have been found that they were covered with sand, silt, and clay. This can usually happen when the flood waters they submerge, they take everything with them. So whatever will be left behind will be covered with sand and silt. So this gives us the option that probably it must have been the floods which made it covered with sand and silt. So probably what the people did, that after the flood waters receded, they faded, they must have rebuilt their houses over the debris, over the wastes. Again, they used to rebuild their houses, their streets and everything. And they did so actually 8 or 9 times. And after that, they became very impoverished. They did not have money to build their house again. And that is how the civilization could not sustain and it declined. In fact, there is a famous hydrologist. Hydrologist is a person who studies the movement of water. He feels, his name is R.L. Rikes, it's given in the book, and he feels that this kind of flooding was not normal. It must have been due to some special reason. And he felt that this was because there were so many frequent earthquakes in this area that the plains on which Mohenjo-daro was located, they must have got raised. And because of this rise in the level of the plain, Indus River was blocked from going to the sea, and hence the water it came back and it flooded Mohenjo-daro. So this is the theory which has been given by him. So one of our very famous factors for decline is floods. How will you explain floods? You will say some scholars believe that floods may have led to the decline of the Harappan civilization, and floods in Mohenjo-daro led to the abandonment of this civilization. This is because the houses and streets which have been discovered, they were covered in sand and silt after the flood waters had submerged and the water had receded. The people after the flood was over, people tried to rebuild their houses over and over again, but probably there came a time where the people were impoverished and they could not rebuild again, and the civilization declined. According to the famous hydrologist R.L. Rikes, this was not a normal flood. Frequent earthquakes may have risen the plains of Indus, blocking the passage of the river into the sea. This may have caused frequent floods, leading to the decline of the civilization. The next point we are discussing is increased aridity. Aridity is dryness. So again, some historians like D.P. Agarwal and Sooth, that is the name of the historian, they feel that the Harappan civilization may have ended due to increased dryness of the river Ghagar. So they believe that there was a river Ghagar and it had two tributaries, Yamuna and Satluj. But probably there was some tectonic movement below the surface of the earth. Because of this, the entire balance of the river got disturbed. And Satluj, it left Ghagar and it joined river Indus, and Yamuna went to join river Ganga. leaving river Ghagar alone, and gradually this river got waterless. So this kind of disturbance, where the nature's balance was disturbed, that may have caused dryness in that area, and the change in drainage pattern may have led to increased dryness, and ultimately this may have led to the decline of the civilization. So how will you expect? How are you expected to explain increased aridity? You will say, according to historians D.P. Agarwal and Sood, the Harappan civilization may have ended due to the increasing aridity and drying of river Ghagar. Satluj and Yamuna were earlier tributaries of river Ghagar, but because of tectonic disturbances, Satluj joined river Indus and Yamuna joined the Ganges, thereby leaving Ghagar waterless. This ecological disturbance caused by increased aridity and change in drainage pattern may have led to the decline of the civilization. The next decline cause is actually very simple and a very it may have played a very vital role. We are talking about deforestation. You may remember that in class 6 also you have studied that among the four Bronze Age civilizations, Harappan civilization is one. So, in order to make this bronze, wood is also needed, because firstly, they need to bake it over the fire, and for that purpose, they will need wood. In addition, wood will also be needed to make the basic necessity things that the people were using, be it jewelry or be it for the process of baking bricks or making potter's wheel, for making pottery, for doing pottery, to make any kind of furniture, boards. For all these purposes, people would need a lot of wood, and this excess consumption of wood naturally will need the trees being cut down. That means deforestation, and this increase in deforestation will disturb the balance of nature, causing the decline of the civilization. So this is a fairly simple point. Deforestation, you will say that being a Bronze Age civilization, the civilization used a lot of wood to produce bronze, and wood was also needed to make jewelry, to make bricks, pottery, and to make boats and furniture. And excess consumption of this wood may have led to deforestation and ultimately the decline of the civilization. The last factor is something that you have studied in class 6 also, Aryan attack. That means this belief, some scholars like Mortimer Wheeler, they believe that the Aryans who came from Central Asia, they may have come, and in the process they might have met some resistance by the Harappans who were staying in the northwestern part of India. And since they wanted to come in India, they massacred, they killed all these people they met on the way. So they believe that this was a massacre, this was a mass murder that the Aryan people did. And since they were a superior race, they were on horses, they were using iron tools, which was much more superior as compared to bronze tools, the Harappans did not stand a chance. And Mortimer Wheeler has concluded this because in Mohenjo-daro, we have found a house in a room where 13 skeletons of male, female, and one child has been found. So this indicated that probably some kind of mass murder must have taken place. So these are the four probable factors of decline. We cannot say that any one of them for sure is the factor. We are only anticipating and thinking that one of these or a factor of combination of these may have been responsible. So please remember, the first factor for decline, you will say the Indus Valley civilization declined around 1800 BC. The exact cause for decline is not known. There are four probable causes. The first one is flood. The second one is increased aridity. The third one is deforestation. And the last one is attack by Aryans. This, with the explanation, should be very, very clear in your mind. And the last part of the chapter, we are just discussing that what was the heritage, what was the culture that the Harappan civilization has left behind. So basically, you know that this Harappan civilization happens to be a landmark in Indian history. Why? Because it gives us a very, very seamless sense of identity. It makes us feel that we had a culture of our own. Prior to this, we were made to believe that the Indian history began with the Aryans coming to India. That means we always believed that somebody had to come from outside to give us our identity. We could not do it ourselves. But with the rich heritage that we have discovered through the Harappan civilization, we know that our country was also very rich in history. You have studied about so many things in this chapter, and you know that these are unique things which were not found previously in India. Be it the town planning, be it the drainage, be it the pottery, be it the level of sculpture or the level of engineering with structures like Great Path, all of these have show unmatched talent. So that is why the Harappan civilization has left a lot of heritage behind it. And there are three heritage that we are mentioning right now, which is very important for your exam. The first one, that the Harappan way of making baked pottery, bricks, beads, jewelry, textile, etc. was later adopted by the other civilizations. So they started these processes of baking bricks, making the same size of baked bricks, or doing pottery over potter's wheel, making jewelry, ornaments were worn by both men and women. All these, they will be inherited by the civilizations later. Secondly, they were one of the earliest to start the cultivation of cotton, and later the Egyptian civilization also adopted it from us. And lastly, we have discussed in religion that there was a seal of Shiva Pashupati, or I mentioned that there was a figurine of Mother Goddess. So these things, there are many such aspects of religion, like the Shiva Pashupati has been synonymous. He's similar to Lord Shiva that we have today in Hindu mythology. Mother goddess, or having a goddess for fertility, that is also prevalent in Hinduism today. Having certain sacred trees like people tree in Hinduism, worship of serpents, of snakes, all these things, they may have started with the Harappan civilization, but they have remained unchanged and they are somewhat preserved in the Hindu culture today. So that means it was existing then, and in some form it is existing even today. So if I ask you what is the heritage of the Harappan civilization, you will say point 1, the Harappan way of making baked pottery, bricks, beads, jewelry, etc. was adopted by the later civilization. Point 2, one of the most remarkable achievements of the Harappan people was the cultivation of cotton, which was later adopted by Egyptians. And lastly, in the religious sphere, the worship of Shiva Pashupati, Mother Goddess, sacred trees, animals, etc., was prevalent in the Harappan civilization. Some of these practices continue even today. So with this, we have finished the chapter, and this is actually just a very interesting start to history. In the next few chapters, we will be continuing with what happened after the Aryans came to India. I hope this lesson is very clear to you, and please make sure that you do it very thoroughly, because these same chapters you will be studying in class 8th, and again you'll be asked questions about it in class 9th. So take it very seriously. I am attaching some serious questions throughout the chapter that we have done. Take it very seriously.